It's fair to say that the vast majority of us thoroughly enjoy a game with a strong main storyline, and it's incredibly fulfilling to see your character progress on their journey towards their big goal. If you're like me, however, you probably have the attention span of the average goldfish, and so sticking with the same lengthy questline for hours on end can quickly get a bit tedious if there's nothing else around to spice things up a bit. It's for this reason that developers often include side quests, smaller, bite-sized missions that players can dip in and out of at their leisure. They'll usually grant you XP, dollary dues, or even tell you things about the universe that you might not find out if you skip over them. Some games even go to the extreme, offering so much side action that you might even forget about the main plot altogether. So let's have a look at some, shall we? I'm Ashton from TripleJump, and here are 10 great games for people that love side quests. Number 10, Grand Theft Auto 5. Even if you're only interested in completing the main story, Grand Theft Auto 5 is a huge game, with the average player taking well over 30 hours to wrap up the exploits of Franklin, Michael and Trevor. Add in all of the side quests that are available and that playtime goes through the proverbial roof. If a life of crime starts to get a bit tiresome, there are plenty of other things you can get up to around the state of San Andreas. Why not live out your Dog the Bounty Hunter fantasies and track down a bunch of no-good bail jumpers? You'll even get extra cash if you manage to bring them back alive. Bringing them in dead or alive is up to you, of course, but it's nice to have the option. Perhaps you've always wondered what it would be like to join a cult, and for a small donation you can become a member of the Epsilon program, a group happy to relieve you of any extra cash you may have in return for their own unique brand of enlightenment. Or maybe you'd rather just clean up the oceans with a submarine, because even if the altruism doesn't quite give you those warm fuzzy feelings on the inside, the 23 grand you'll receive in return for each barrel of toxic waste sure will. Number 9, Final Fantasy 15. After being in development for more than a decade, Final Fantasy fans were chomping at the bit to get stuck into the huge open world that Final Fantasy 15 had teased. Almost no one was prepared for the sheer scale, however, and players were blown away by just how much there is to do. Side quests are available right from the get-go, which means that hours of gameplay can be easily racked up before you've even scratched the surface of the main story. A good number of these smaller missions are bounty hunts, in which Noctis and the gang must eliminate a target in return for a tidy sum of cash. If you're not really in the violent mood, however, there are plenty more laissez-faire options to fill up your time, whether it's searching for a nice spot to take a good photograph, helping a chocobo in need, or fixing a feast for a fine feline friend. There's so much to do, in fact, that completing the game in its entirety would take over 5 solid days of play. We can't recommend that you do that though. Just think of what all the necessary caffeine would do to your tummy. Number 8, Dragon Age Inquisition. It may come as somewhat of a shock to see this entry on our list. After all, nobody expects a Dragon Age Inquisition. For God's sake, I'm not doing this joke again. Call the writer and tell her she's fired. Awful jokes that we've stolen from Monty Python aside, I am personally not at all surprised to see Dragon Age Inquisition on this list, on account of the fact that it's bloody massive, and after the success of Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic and the Mass Effect series, no one expected any less than absolute grandeur from developer BioWare. The overarching narrative follows the Inquisitor, a fierce warrior on a mission to close a big old hole in the sky that's unleashing demons upon the world. This, as I'm sure you could probably guess, is not a small task, taking the vast majority of players the best part of 50 hours to get through. As with their other franchises, however, BioWare weren't about to stop once the central quest line was done, and threw in a whole load of additional optional missions for good measure. Admittedly, many of the quests are very similar, but if it means getting more out of this award-winning masterpiece, then you certainly won't hear me complaining. Number 7, Fallout 4. Okay, I know the opening jokes of the last entry was awful, but I think we can all move past it. After all, it's not something that we should all fall out for. Right, guys? Guys? If being forced to watch Threads in secondary school has taught me anything, it's that a full-blown nuclear annihilation isn't ideal. If you do end up stuck in a post-apocalyptic nightmare though, you're going to want to find plenty of things to try and keep you occupied, because if nothing else, the end of the world is pretty boring. Fortunately, our protagonist, the sole survivor of Vault 111, has plenty of things with which to busy themselves, thanks to the murder of their spouse and kidnapping of their son. If trying to solve this mystery all gets a bit much, however, there are a number of other things you can be doing to pass these long wasteland days. You can spend some time building yourself a base to help protect you from all the radiation, seeking out random encounters with NPCs, or looking for collectibles like the Vault Boy bobbleheads. And if none of that sounds like your jam, then Preston will always be on hand to point you in the direction of a settlement in need. Just make sure you've got the real one, yeah? Number 6, Red Dead Redemption 2. Here at Team TripleJump, we're of the belief that everyone is good at something, and based on the fact that they've managed to secure not one but 2 entries on this list, we can safely say that the thing Rockstar is good at is creating absolutely gargantuan games. Though the 5th entry into the Steely Wheelie Automobile franchise has got a lot to offer players, it really isn't a patch on the amount of content available to those who enjoy their crime with a bit of added horse. Red Dead Redemption 2's main campaign, which follows outlaw Arthur Morgan as he tries to navigate his way through life in the Wild West, shocked audiences upon its release in 2018 due to its sheer scale, with most gamers taking well over 50 hours to complete the story. There are plenty of cowboy tales to tell, however, so in addition to this huge main questline, there's also a plethora of side quests to keep players busy. From gang hideouts to fishing, Red Dead Redemption 2 really does have all the necessary ingredients to keep fans happy until Rockstar gets around to announcing the 3rd entry into the franchise, and maybe even long after that. Really depends if they stop faffing around re-releasing GTA 5. Number 5, Horizon Zero Dawn. From the second it was teased during Sony's 2015 E3 conference, audiences knew they were in for something special with Horizon Zero Dawn. Upon release, the game was praised pretty much universally for its stunning visuals, captivating protagonist, and the impressive depth of its open world. The main storyline follows Aloy, a young woman living in the year 3020, as she tries to uncover her past in a world overrun with malevolent machines. In order to progress, players need to ensure that Aloy is well equipped to fight these metallic monstrosities by upgrading her skills, furnishing her with weapons, and crafting the necessary items that will ensure her survival. That's enough going on in the central campaign to keep most gamers busy for north of 30 hours, but if you do run out of things to do, then fret not, because the expansive world also includes a whole bunch of side quests that are sure to satisfy even the most content-hungry among you. Whether it's fetching medicine for a dying man or eliminating a bandit camp, there's lots going on to ensure that your Horizon Zero Dawn experience is just as long and fulfilling as you'd expect it to be. And I expect it to be gosh darn long and fulfilling, let me tell you that! Number 4, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Prior to 2017's Breath of the Wild, the Legend of Zelda series hadn't dipped its toe into the open world pond, but the leap from a more linear style of gameplay was welcomed by both fans of the series and of open world games in general. The overarching narrative sees an amnesiac Link travelling across Hyrule to uncover his lost memories and defeat Ganon before the villain breaks free from his bonds within Hyrule Castle and destroys the world. If you feel like undertaking a side mission or 2 along the way, however, then we're certain that Ganon will be kind enough to place his dastardly plans on hold while you get all of the adventuring out of your system. Should you find yourself longing for something other than the main campaign, there are over 70 side quests that Link can find dotted around the world. This number doesn't even include the scores of shrines, each with puzzles and challenges of their own, or the 15 Sheikah towers that can be scaled, not to mention the fact that one quest tasks players with finding 900 Korok seeds. Yes, that's right, 900. Can someone just give Ganon a ring and just let him know I'm going to be a bit late for our fight? Thank you. Number 3, The Elder Scrolls V, Skyrim. It's a lot of fun slaying dragons, and the pursuit of Alduin throughout Skyrim's main campaign is highly engaging, but even Dragonborn have days where they feel like they've taken an arrow to the knee, so sometimes a change of pace is in order. Thankfully, if you're burnt out after a few hard days of hunting down big flappy lizards, then there are plenty of other things within the region of Skyrim to get up to. Optional missions vary greatly in length, so if you're a little short on time, you can pick up a standalone task that might see you doing anything from bringing down a bunch of witches to reclaiming a Hagraven's cave for her. If you have a few hours on your hands, however, you might just want to sink your teeth into something slightly meatier. Keen pickpockets looking to move on to bigger and better scores should seek out the Thieves Guild, an organisation for those looking to take their light-fingered exploits to a professional level. Or if thievery isn't your style, maybe you can attract the attention of the Dark Brotherhood, a band of assassins who'll be more than happy to furnish you with a smorgasbord of squishy targets. After all, what better way is there to pass the time than shanking a nobleman? Number 2, The Witcher 3, Wild Hunt. If there's one thing you can say about CG Projekt Red's 2015 epic, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, it's that you get your money's worth. Even if you don't so much as look at a side quest, there's still over 50 hours of content in the main story alone. Ignoring the additional missions, however, would be an absolute travesty, as it's not only a great way to earn XP, increase Geralt's level and earn a bit of coin, but it also allows you to explore the expansive world, meet interesting NPCs and slay a whole variety of beasties. If monster hunting isn't really your thing, though if it's not, I don't really see why you'd be playing The Witcher, then there are plenty of settlements to liberate from bandits and cannibals, and hidden treasure caches just waiting to be discovered. Finally, there's Gwent, the collectible card game that everyone from Kaer Morhen to the Skellige Isles simply cannot get enough of. Cards can be obtained both from merchants and through matches with other players, and with 5 different decks to complete, it's sure to keep you busy in between romancing Yennefer and looking for Ciri. She's a tough girl, I'm sure she can handle herself while I challenge this innkeeper to a rematch. And number 1, Xenoblade Chronicles. If you're after a JRPG with more side quests than you can shake a stick at, then you need look no further than 2010's Xenoblade Chronicles, because believe us when we say, it is huge. The main story in and of itself clocks in at a whopping 70 hours for most players. Once you then take all of the additional content into account, that number more than doubles. It's all the more impressive that its hundreds of hours of questing was initially released on the Nintendo Wii, a system that was definitely not noted for its processing power. The game features over a dozen different regions, within which there are multitudes of side missions that vary from simple fetch quests to monster encounters. What's more is you can complete each task in a number of different ways, with each one impacting the conclusion, so even if you're a complete madman that finishes every quest in the game, you can still go back on a second playthrough and get a whole load of different outcomes. Though it may not have the narrative finesse of some of the other entries on our list, it's undeniably a must play for anyone who'd rather do anything if it means they can put off playing the main story.